Hello and welcome to Block Party. I'm Eileen Roach, co-founder of Dime, Designs and Machine Embroidery. You know, embroiderers and quilters have an awful lot in common. Most of all, they strive for professional results in their craft. As an embroiderer and quilter, we've all learned that if you use the right tools, we're on our way to success. And that's why Dime, the embroidery solutions company, has teamed up with Accuquilt to show you how you can use your embroidery machine to get the most precise quilt blocks you've ever made, and how starting with the right cuts of fabric speeds up the whole process. Let me introduce you to Erica Bacher. She is an Accuquilt creativity expert, and she's been with Accuquilt for 10 years. Welcome, Erica.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with all of you today.
I know you have so much in store to share with the quilters and embroiderers, right?
Oh, I sure do. And I can't wait to see everything that Ashley's cooked up as well. It's just such a great marriage of products. I'm so excited.
It really is. And, you know, Erica already mentioned Ashley Jones. Well, Ashley Jones has really spent an awful lot of time creating samples and blending these two techniques, Accuquilt cutting system and stitching or quilting, piecing in the hoop, all into one. Wait till you see what she's going to show you today. So why don't we go ahead and welcome Ashley. Ashley's coming in from Key Largo. Hello, Ashley. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Glad to be here and see both of you and excited to talk about this topic. I definitely agree with Erica's statement about the perfect marriage of product. I mean, the two of us, these two companies developed these things completely separately and discovered that they work together seamlessly. So it's a great discovery, right?
Absolutely.
It sure is.
And Erica, I think you would agree. That's what happens when passionate people play in their sewing room, right? They come up with great ideas.
That's right. Our quilting heads start cooking up ideas is what I like to say.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to get out of the way because I know, Erica, you're going to stay and share your expertise on the Accuquilt product line. And Ashley, my goodness, I'm still learning from you. So I'm going to bow out, but I know you have somebody else that you're going to introduce. So thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
Awesome, Erica. I will see you back in just a bit. I wanted to get started with one more introduction, and that is our very own Tammy Madden. You guys are going to see Tammy pop up in the chat because she's going to be answering all those questions over there, right, Tammy?
That's right, Ashley. And they're already asking questions, which I love. So folks, keep that up because I'm going to be over here for the next 90 minutes. But Ashley, before we get started, I have some exciting news. You know, this is the first for me, maybe not for you, but we have someone fly in watching us. So isn't that, I mean, I've never had somebody that was actually in the airplane watching this, and they're flying over the United States right now.
That is pretty impressive. I think that's a first for me too, Tammy. So I love that. I think that also speaks to her passion, like Eileen mentioned too. So Tammy, do you want to tell them how it's going to work today with the chat?
Ashley, yes, but I want to tell you, we have somebody from Australia that is 2 o'clock in the morning watching. So that is passion for watching at 2 o'clock in the morning. But folks, I'm going to be over here in the chat for the next 90 minutes. So make sure you ask all those questions because we love when you ask questions. Yes. And don't worry if I can't answer any of your questions. We're going to have a live Q&A with not only Ashley, but Erica's going to be joining us too. Yeah. So make sure you ask your questions about anything Dime or anything about also Accuquilt.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate your help, Tammy. I know it's going to be busy over there. And so you may want to put maybe question marks in front of your questions so that Tammy can pick them out. I already can see the chat moving really quickly. So when you're asking a question, put your question marks in front, maybe like 2 or 3. That'll help her pick it out of the questions that are flying by really quickly. And if she misses your question, it's probably because it's so busy. Ask it again. I know, Tammy, you won't mind that at all, will you?
Not at all. And Ashley, thank you for that reminder about those 2 question marks. I totally forgot it. I'm just excited that somebody's flying over the United States.
Right, I know. And you're going to be really excited with all the busyness because I know that you love it when they have great questions. So, well, Absolutely. Sounds good. Well, if you're ready, Tammy, you can head over to the chat and I'll get started with what they can expect from today's event.
Sounds great.
Okay, so thank you for your help. Yes, guys, ask her all your questions. Anything Accuquilt, dime, embroidery, quilting. If you've got the questions, ask them in the chat. So today's block party is a very special edition block party with Accuquilt. So we're excited to share the stage with them today, and we've got a really good event in store for you. But we're going to be talking about piecing your quilt blocks with your embroidery machine and then cutting them with your Accuquilt cutting system, but actually the other way around. You're going to cut them and then piece them. But these are some things that you can create with those beautiful cuts and those perfect piecing in the hoop. We've got a lot of information for you. We're going to be sharing with you how you can generate a stitch file from a block that you have cut those pieces out with your Accuquilt cutter. So if embroidery is something that you love and quilting is something that you love, all of these things you're seeing here, we can make with the combination of our embroidery machine and our Accuquilt cutter. And these specific projects are the ones that I'm going to be talking about today. So all of these pieced in the hoop, some variations, some adaptations of the blocks, but all cut with my Accuquilt cutting system. Now today you can expect to learn how to generate the stitch file from the program that we'll be talking about, and you can also get tips and tricks today from both dime and Accuquilt. So on your cutting and on your piecing in the hoop. So we've got these several projects, and each project is going to give you additional details about the process. So today is not only an event where you can get your questions and learn something new, but you can also shop. So we have specially priced items that we've chosen for this presentation, both from Accuquilt and dime, and you can see all of them below the presentation. You can chat directly with us over there to the right of the video window. So ask your questions, make your comments. Let us know if you've pieced in the hoop before. Let us know if you have an Accuquilt cutting system. We would love to hear those things from you over in the chat. Now, everything that we have today is on special price specifically for this event. If you have any connectivity issues today, or if you need to step away for any reason, you can rewatch this presentation for the next 48 hours. And really, since it's Thursday already, you can watch for all through the weekend. So just use your regular link and it'll get you right back to here to play the replay. So that's really great. You can shop and watch for the next 48 hours, or actually through the Sunday evening. So you can take advantage of those specially priced items that we have. If you click the view product button underneath any of those little images, you'll see a description, but I will be talking about most of these items. And then you can add that to your cart by clicking that add to cart button. Now, everything that we have here is on special price, even the Accuquilt cutting system and the companion sets, things like that, are all on special specifically for this event. Now, once you add an item to your cart, when you're ready to check out, you'll click that checkout button and it'll open up a separate page here. And then you'll click that show order summary to show the items that are in your cart. Now, this is very important. If you like savings, you want to make sure that you pay attention to this box here. It says discount code. We have 2 additional ways for you to save today. If you enter the discount code flagship and you've spent over $150, you will get free shipping to any US address. So flagship will get you free shipping over $150. If you spend over $250, you will not only get the free shipping if you enter flagship, you will also get 10% off of your entire purchase by entering flag 10. So if you spend over $250, you absolutely must enter both codes to take advantage of the free shipping and the 10% off. But what a smoking deal, already on special and an additional 10% off. Now, the best deal of all is this free gift for you. This is a free design that we have created that works with your Accuquilt cutting system, but also will be pieced in the hoop. So this cute little tulip block here is available at the bottom of the product list. You will add it to your cart at 0 charge. And when you check out, it will be emailed to you via a download link. So make sure you check your email after you check out. Anything you purchase today that is a download item, it will be sent to you via your email. So don't forget to check your email. Now, this design is an embroidery file. So when you get it, make sure that you realize that you do need your embroidery machine to piece this together. So this block is already saved in all of the formats that you need, and you'll get those when you click that download. Now, do we have anybody out there that is new to piecing in the hoop? So tell us over in the chat. And even if you're not, here's a little refresher. When you're piecing in the hoop, you're going to hoop a piece of stabilizer, and then you're going to stitch the placement guide for the block. That's going to let you know where to put each piece of fabric to build the block. And in our system, we do create these files with numbers, so you know exactly which position is first. So then once you've done that, you'll place the first fabric piece over number 1, and it is always placed right sides up. So when you place that down, the stitch file will then tack that piece down, and then every other piece will be placed right sides together and stitch a seam. So this process is going to create your block with seams. There's no raw edges in the interior of your block when you're done. There's only raw edges around the outside because we put our blocks together with other blocks. So then once you put it right sides together and you flip it out, it will then tack it down, and you put the next piece right sides together, flip it out, press it, tack it down, and the same thing over and over and over until your entire block is built in the hoop. Look at that. Isn't that cute? And then once you're all done, this block can be removed from the hoop, and then you could make another and then assemble them once you get several of them stitched. Now, your free design does have instructions for making this a little coaster. So it has an envelope back so it can be completely finished when you remove it from the hoop. All instructions are included. And then if you do choose to make that coaster, you can turn that inside out, give it a good press, and you've got a nice little finished block. Now, this block was completely designed in Dime's My Block Piecer, which we will be talking about today, and that file generated for all of the embroidery machine formats that we've saved it in, which covers pretty much every home embroidery machine out there and even commercial formats. But I cut these pieces out using my Accuquilt cutting system. So it made it so much easier and so much quicker. Both of these companies strive to make your sewing and embroidery process fun and fast so you can get more sewing and embroidery done. So thank goodness we have Erica here with us today, because she's actually going to get us started with Accuquilt and let us know what it is and how it's used for any users that are new to Accuquilt. And she's also going to cut the pieces for that tulip block so you can see exactly how it's done. So Erica, if you'll join me on the screen. I so appreciate you being here today and taking the time to tell us everything we need to know about Accuquilt.
Oh, Ashley, I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yes, well, thank you. Well, Erica, I'll let you get started. Tell us all about Accuquilt and show us how to cut this block, and then we'll do a Q&A after you're done. So I'll see you back here in just a bit when you're done with this section.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so if you're not familiar with Accuquilt, it's a fabric die cutting system specifically designed for quilters. And it's all based kind of on our cube system. And our cube system is a fun box set that has 8 different dies. They're all going to work together to create quilt blocks. Actually, over 72 different quilt blocks. And those quilt blocks are going to be the size that it says on the packaging. So we have 7 sizes of cubes, starting from 4, then we've got 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, and 12-inch finished blocks. Now, it's all based on a number system. So when you looked at that slide from Ashley, she had numbers on those shapes because we have numbers on our shapes. So we've got all kinds of numbers going on, but don't worry because they're easy to pay attention to and to remember. So it all starts with shape number 1, which is a square. And basically the cube is designed so that 4 of shape number 1 put together is going to make that size block. So if you are working with the 4-inch cube like we are today, 4 of shape number 1, that little square sewn together in a 4 patch, it's going to finish to 4 inches. So we want to jump in. We're going to be using 2 cubes today mostly, the 4-inch cube and the 8-inch cube. Now they're going to work really well together. So let's get started on cutting some shapes from our 4-inch cube. And if we go in numerical order, the first one we're going to cut is shape number 2. So that's our little squares. And the 4-inch cube, I have to tell you, quilters, is the best for using your scraps. So it's hard to see on the camera, but I've got 4 squares here. I just need 1 of each, but I'm going to cut more than 1 because I can, and cover that with a mat. You have to use a mat and put it through my cutter. Now I'm using the Go cutter today, and it's a manual cutter. We have 3 different cutters you can use. All of them would work with the 4 and the 8-inch cubes that we're using. And we have the Go, we have our Go Me, which is a smaller option, and then we've got our Go Big Electric, and we'll talk about those a little later. So here are my 2 shapes. I've got my 2 little squares I need right here. I'm going to set those aside. I've got 2 to spare. That's for my next block I make. And I'm going to set that one aside. Now the next shape that we saw on there was called shape number 3, and that was a half square triangle. So let's take a look at those shapes. Half square triangles with Accuquilt are really special because we already cut off those dog ears for you. What does this mean? Well, it means that you don't have to cut out squares and cut them from corner to corner and then sew them together and go back and trim off dog ears. You're just going to cut the half square triangle that you need and you're ready to move on. So here's my half square triangle. Here's my fabric. Now a lot of time quilters are going to ask why this is on an angle on my die. And that's probably a question we're going to get, so I'm just going to answer it right now. We put that at an angle so that it gets its best cut. Because going through the cutter, I can keep disturbing my handle, is kind of like driving over a speed bump. And we want a smooth ride. So we put it on an angle, so it's kind of like driving over that speed bump, 1 tire at a time. Now the other key to that is taking your lengthwise grain and making sure that it goes the lengthwise through the cutter parallel to those blades. So your fabric's actually at that same angle. But again, we're going to cover it with a mat. Whoops, little static going on. We're going to cover those shapes with the mat because that's how the system works. You know, I like to say it's a highly technical form of smushing because the dies are created with blades embedded in the base. They're surrounded by foam so that you're not going to get hurt rubbing your hand across them. And when you put the mat on it, put it through the cutter, it's going to compress those blades up through your fabric and create your perfect cuts. So here are those half square triangles that we need for our design. And then the next shape we needed was a rectangle. And that's going to be shape 8. And again, when we look at the one for the 4-inch mix and match, I've got 4 of those rectangles on my die. They're each going to finish at 1 by 2. And I can go ahead, put the mat on, zip this one through my cutter as well. We're going to pull that off. And the last shape that we're going to talk about is the chisel shape. And that was one of those shapes that we saw and she had it labeled as number 9. Now, if you're paying attention and counting, you know that we told you beforehand there were 8 dies in that mix and match shape. Well, we decided if 8 were good, 12 would be better. So we came out with our companion set corners. And this has 4 more shapes that come to the party. This is the chisel shape. And this is great that Ashley included this because this actually happens to be a directional shape. So before I cut this, I paid attention to Ashley's sample because I wanted to be sure my chisel was facing the right way. Now, for it to work with Ashley's design, I need to actually cut this with my fabric right side down. And again, you can see I've got my lengthwise grain here. I'm going to pop my mat on top of it and put that through. And this is going to give me all of the shapes that I needed to make that fun tulip block. And you know, we kind of laughed, Ashley and I, about doing some kind of Christmassy fabrics because, and I said, well, anything can be a Christmas block as long as you change up your fabric. And she had to agree with me because I was going to be the guest, I guess. But there we go. Now, when you look at this, don't panic and say, oh, Erica, those don't fit together, because we build in a perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. So every cut is perfectly accurate. Every cut for these half square triangles has those dog ears cut off. You're going to cut 100% faster and 100% more accurately.
That is perfect, Erica. I absolutely love. I love that you also mentioned the built-in seam allowance because our program that we're going to see in a bit also has that built-in seam allowance. So it really takes the guesswork out of cutting and stitching for everybody out there that's interested. So
it does. It's so great. This is such a great way to cut. It cuts out if you have issues with seeing, if you have issues with moving your ruler. I'm a terrible rotary cutter. If you've got hand issues or arm issues, we've got options for you. And
absolutely.
Anything to keep quilters quilting.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. And we say the same thing with embroidery, doing those things in the hoop, because, you know, when you have issues with your hands and things like that, it definitely makes a huge difference. And the other thing I think, Erica, that you mentioned, the dog ears, which is also a perfect match to our system because it really makes placing those pieces where they need to be perfect because those dog ears fit right into the shape of the design that we're creating. And we'll see a little bit more about that coming up. And so I know that the questions are flying. And while I've got you on the screen, I think this is a good opportunity to see if we've got some questions that Tammy can bring to us. So if Tammy will join us, then Tammy, let us know. Are there questions over there? I see that chat just going crazy.
There are a lot of questions, but a lot of comments because they love the presentation. You know, they're talking about how great it is to combine the two, you know, the Accuquilt and in the hoop, you know, piecing. So they are loving today's presentation. But we got a lot of questions about Accuquilt, you know.
Good.
And I wish I could answer them all, but I am not 100. I am not the expert like Erica is. So Erica, I'm going to need your help a little bit.
I am here and ready to go, Tammy.
Well, you know, you were showing how they can, you know, cut that block and they want to know, do you have to have the 4-inch or is there other blocks that they can use to cut it with?
You know what? Here's the thing. The design that you're getting is designed to work with the 4-inch cube. And I didn't mention this, my mistake. This chisel is actually from the 8-inch companion corners. So the 4 and the 8 are going to work together. The companion is going to work together. So you actually have to have both for this. And that's actually how the program is written if you want to go ahead and piece this in the hoop with the program that Ashley and Dime have
Did
put
Erica
together
freeze or is
for
it just me?
I think
she'll come back in just a second, I'm sure.
Oh,
so Tammy, do you still have me?
I still have you, but I am having okay with Erica. She is fine on my end, actually.
Oh, okay. Good.
Okay, good. Maybe it's just me then. So thank you. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
So that is kind of the answer to that. Yes, the shapes are the same in every size cube, and they're numbered the same in every size cube. So with a standard pattern, you can sure go ahead and switch that out. You could use the 5 and the 10 or the 6 and the 12 for this. But you know what? It's not going to piece in the hoop with the program that Ashley's giving you for the program today.
Yeah, absolutely. And the block that we are providing is a block that will fit. It's a 4x4 finished tulip block, so that you could then put 4 of those together and have an 8-inch block. So we specifically gave that size so that most everybody doing this that has an embroidery machine would be able to work with that size. But what I'm going to show them coming up with our system is you can set different sizes. So our My Block Piecer software does not only work with the 4-inch and the 8-inch cube sets. It really, you can set the size. So if you have different size dies, you can set that. What thing you do have to remember is, do I have a hoop large enough? So that's the biggest thing to remember. So I think that's a really good response. So go ahead. Other questions, Tammy?
Well, it actually on that, if they don't have their die set, well, of course they can buy new ones, but they want to know, do they have to have the die set, Ashley, to do the hoop piecing for that free design?
So I did make sure that they had templates that they could print and cut out. If you don't have the Accuquilt system, you can use the free design without it. And so, yes, that is a possibility. You just download the design and there's a printed template that you would just use that paper template to cut if you needed, so that anybody could make that free design. We wanted to make sure that that was usable.
Great. And one more question for you, Erica. We have Beth said, I'm sorry, no, Beth was the one that asked about the die. I forgot her name, but she said she has a system, but she's looking to upgrade, but she doesn't know what she can do with her old set. Do you have an upgrade, or she wants to know, do you have an upgrade system or a trade-in program?
Stay tuned for any kind of an upgrade through the store or something. That could happen at some point. But if you're wanting to just upgrade, and I'm not sure whether she's talking about dies or cutters. Now, if you've got, or what she has right now, if you have a Go Me, the Go is a great next step because it's bigger and it's going to use more of our dies. If you've got a Go, why not go big and get the electric one? It's going to use 100% of our dies, and it's so slick how it works. If you have maybe an 8-inch cube and a 2.5-inch strip, maybe you want to add the companions to go along with that 8-inch mix and match. Or maybe you want to go into another size mix and match like the 4 or the 6. They're going to all play really well together. And so it just kind of depends on what you've got. We're also going to talk a little bit later about some other dies that you might want to add. I'll leave that kind of as a cliffhanger there to lead Ashley into a little later.
I love that. I love that. And if they're upgrading their system, if they, like you said, if they have the Go Me, which is the smaller, the dies that they're already using on the Go Me would then work. So you're only upgrading the cutter, right, Erica?
Right. They're all going to work. So there are over 70% of our dies are going to fit in that Go Me. It's just dies that are 6-inch wide, or 5 or 6 inches wide will fit in there. Then the Go is going to take anything that's up to 10 inches wide. And then we have about 7, 8 dies that will only fit in your Go Big Electric because they are 14 inches wide. And I kind of love the flexibility of having the Go Big Electric. This is what I have. But you know what? I use my Go Me if I'm cutting up scraps or have little pieces too. So there is a place in my heart for every one of them.
Absolutely. I can relate. I can relate to that, Erica, with just anything sewing and embroidery. It's there's always a place in my heart for all of it.
Well, here's the question. How many sewing machines do you own, right?
Right, absolutely. I won't say my number, so I'm sure it's not as many as some, but I do have a few, probably more than the necessity. So, well, sounds good. Tammy, any other questions before we get back to the
Well,
presentation?
Ashley, I'm just going to leave you with one more question because
Okay.
I think you're going to be answering this in your demonstration. But they want to know, once they have those pieces cut with the Accuquilt, how do they match those up with the Dime software?
Yes, I am going to show that. And that's actually coming up next. I'm going to show some examples of what we're going to be seeing today. And then I'm going to head right over and show that another design. And then Erica will give us more cutting tips throughout the presentation as well. So, all right, ladies, if you guys are ready, I'll get back to it. And then Erica, I'll see you in just a bit. And Tammy
Okay,
for the
I'll
next
see you
Q&A.
soon.
All
Sounds
right.
great.
Thanks, ladies. All right, so I want to start by showing you a couple of samples that I've got here that I want to, I'm going to show you how to create these in the software, and then Erica will be showing how to cut. So this beautiful table topper here is one of the ones. So I actually pieced, this is actually a 24-inch finished table topper, and each of these blocks, 10 inches, I pieced one entire block in my hoop, all cut with my Accuquilt system and pieced with my embroidery machine. 37 different quilt block pieces to make up this one 10 by 10 block. And it was just a quick process and a fun process doing that with my Accuquilt system and my embroidery machine. And I even quilted it with my embroidery machine, which we'll talk about as well. So also I'm going to show you how I used my designs, and Erica's going to do the cutting. I made this little trivet pieced in the hoop and quilted in the hoop, and also just using my scraps to just create a cute little border for a hand towel as well. And hopefully we'll have time and get to adding text to a quilt label. I used one of my little 4x4 blocks from or the 2-inch block for my 4-inch cube to make this cute little label here, and added text and embroidered that all in the hoop at once. So you can do so many things with the combination of these two systems. And here's just a few other things. This cute little clutch that was cut on my Accuquilt and then pieced with my embroidery machine. And it is a pattern that we have for this particular design. And I actually just cut my block to fit within that pattern. But other things, that 4-inch cube set, if you do 1/4 of those blocks, they're little 2-inch blocks, which make cute little magnets. Look at this little tiny quilt block magnets that you can use to make a gift. For my free design, you can see here's the one pieced in the hoop. It does give you that envelope back if you want. And this one I actually stuffed and just turned it into a pin cushion. So you can do all kinds of things with these blocks. Here's one that I did for St. Patrick's Day, all pieced in the hoop, and the applique and embroidery was all added in the hoop. And then this cute little design here, the pinwheel block just turned into a little tabletop quilt here and all quilted in the hoop. So that's just a little taste of some of those things, but we're going to see specifically how you can create these blocks in the software. So the software that I'm going to be using to generate the stitch file that you would need to piece your block together is called My Block Piecer. Now, My Block Piecer has thousands of built-in blocks that you can use. You just need to be able to coordinate that block with which pieces you need from your Accuquilt cutting system. And I'm going to show you a little bit of detail about that. So to make these blocks, it's really easy. You select the block and then you can set the size that matches your die. And I mean, you're going to be so surprised, and then you just save it. So it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. You're going to select the block that you want to piece in the hoop. Then you're going to enter the size that you need it to be. The size should match the die that you are using. So when I use my 4-inch cube set, this one block would be a 2-inch finished block. If I'm using my 8-inch cube set, this would be a 4-inch finished block. And you get all the information with your Accuquilt cutting system to understand the cuts and the sizes of the pieces that you're cut. And then once you've set the size, you just click to generate the stitch file, and then you save it. And that's really it. It is seriously that simple. So let's head over and see this block. I'm going to start with this particular block, and we're going to go through the basics so you can understand how to generate the file that will piece your block together in the hoop. So I'm over here in my software. So this is my block piecer program. And so let's just get started. So we actually give you free updates to this software. So if we add anything new, you're going to get it for free. And we actually just had an update that added some Accuquilt block, some compatible blocks. Now, just because these blocks are all grouped together does not mean that these are the only blocks that will work with your Accuquilt system. It's just a great place to get started. But we have thousands of built-in blocks in this program. You can see here as I scroll down through some of them, you just select the category and then you're going to select the block that you're interested in piecing. And I'm going to tell you about selecting and setting the size. But all of these blocks you can use to piece in the hoop. You just need to, for your cuts, select the pieces that you need from your Accuquilt cutting system. So let's just start with a basic one. And I'm going to use that block that we need for the whirl block here. So I select my block. And if I'm going to use my 8-inch cube set, this 1/4 of that block would be 4 inches. So it'll be 4-inch finish. So I'm going to enter 4 and click apply. Now, once I've done that, I have set the size, I've selected the block. I just need to choose this workflow option here. Click the auto build, sort numbers. That's going to put it in numerical order so you know which one to lay down first, second, third, and fourth. And then when I click preview, there is my one block that is going to piece my pieces together. I'm going to cut these on my Accuquilt. I'm going to save this block and take it to my embroidery machine. I'm just going to put this on my desktop here and just let's call this our Accuquilt block here. And then I'm going to choose my machine format. Now look at this. All of you guys out there watching, I know from all over the world. So everybody's got a different brand embroidery machine. So we have pretty much any brand that you can think of listed that you can save to. So your Brother, Baby Lock, Bernina, Singer, Pfaff, Viking, Elna, Janome. We also have commercial formats. So you choose your embroidery machine format and then click save. When you save that block, it's actually going to save the stitch file for you as well as the original artwork file. So in case you need to get back to that block, but let me open this up so you can see exactly what you're getting. When you save, it creates the stitch file. And as I watch this in my slow redraw, it's going to stitch the design layout so I know where to place my pieces. And then it's going to let me place down piece number 1, tack it down, do the seam for 2, tack it down, seam for 3, tack it down, seam for 4, and then I've got a finished block. Notice all those overlapping stitches. That's our seam. So we do have that 1/4 inch seam built into the design. So when you enter into we'll see that in just a bit. When you enter your size here for 4 inch, you are entering a finished block size. So 4-inch finish. So this is actually going to be a 4.5-inch block because it's got my 1/2-inch seam all the way around. Now, let me give you another tip. So you can do that with any of the built-in blocks. But this block, actually, we could piece a little more of it in one hooping. So here, if I copy and paste, I just want to kind of give you an idea here of this particular block setup. And I'm going to rotate this around because remember, we're kind of making our whirl block. So if I copy and paste again and then rotate that around so that it's the right orientation, and you can see that I just duplicated the block, copied and pasted it, and I have now that 4-patch block with that that initial block that we chose, which is here, 1/4 of that block. Now, if you have a block that doesn't end with a Y seam, so now I cannot stitch this entire block in one hooping because I will eventually get to a point to where it needs to stitch a Y and I can't flip that out, but I can stitch half of it at a time. So if I just select half of that block, I can choose that same thing, my workflow. Now I do need to make sure that I'm in a hoop that's large enough. You can see that it's larger than my hoop here that I have set. So I need to choose a larger hoop. click auto build, and I do my sort numbers to make sure they're in order and preview. So now this block, I could actually stitch 2 halves of it in one hooping. So then if I do another hooping, I stitch another half, and then I just need to seam the 2 together. Now you can get the software to seam them together for you if you want, or you could just seam them together on your sewing machine. Which is what we mostly do anyway. If we were to stitch 1/4 of this block, then we would seam those 4 together on our sewing machine, especially if you're making a block that's larger than your hoop. So isn't that easy? So now this block, let me show you a little bit more here of what I did. So in the block piecer software, remember, it's not just the blocks that we have in the Accuquilt compatible category. You have over 1,200 built-in blocks. Now you can use parts and pieces of those blocks to make your own block if you want, but then understanding how to match that up with your cutting system is about that finished size of the block piece. And I'll give you another tip on that coming up here in just a minute. You can create your own blocks by using the built-in blocks to manipulate, or we do have drawing tools. This program works on both Windows and Mac, so you can use it on either operating system. And again, we have free updates. So if we add anything new, you get them for free. That Accuquilt compatible block category was a recent add, and everybody gets that category automatically. Now, I used these 3 dies to cut out my pieces for my block, and then you saw that I pieced half of that block in one hooping. So I pieced it, and then I did the same process. It's that stitch and flip process. But now after I pieced 1/2, I took it out of the hoop and I trimmed away the excess. And I actually just added a seam line from my software here to seam my 2 together. So I let my embroidery machine actually seam them together by laying them right sides down. You can also create that type of file in my quilt, in my block piecer. You can also merge in quilting files. So how many people out there love to quilt with your embroidery machine? So you can purchase quilting files that are run stitch files. You can bring those designs into the software and have one file that will piece and then quilt your block all in the same hooping. And I'll show you how you would do that coming up a little later with the pineapple block. But basically in that file, you don't have to take it out of the hoop when you're done piecing. You can add your batting and your backing, and then quilt through all of those layers. Now, quilting designs, you can purchase from a variety of different locations. We do have some here that are on special, like our Pebble Passion is the one that I used in that trivet. These are quilting designs that are embroidery files. They're files that your embroidery machine will read. You can merge that right on top of the piecing design so that it will quilt it as soon as you're done piecing. If you make it a different color, your machine will stop and let you add the batting and the backing to quilt through layers. Now, in this case, you would have one finished block if you wanted to do something maybe quilt as you go method, but you can also not add quilting and then just create your blocks, piece them together, and then quilt through all 3 layers, which is what I did on my pineapple table topper there. So now these pieces for this whirl block, let's see Erica and see what tips she has for using your Accuquilt system to cut out the pieces for this block. So what did you think about generating that file, Erica? Is that easy or what?
That is so slick. I am dying to try that out for myself, but I feel, I mean, you just make it look so easy. I'm dying to try it out.
It really is, Erica. That's the same thing I thought about you and the Accuquilt cutting system. I thought you made it look so easy, and then I have mine, and I discovered it truly is that easy.
Isn't it? It
Absolutely.
really is.
It sure
really
is. Well, Erica, take it away. Tell them all about this, cutting this block on the Accuquilt cutting system.
Oh my gosh, this is such a cute block. I love this block. It's one of my favorites. So we're going to start with some 1/4 square triangles. And the 3 dies I'm using are all from the 8-inch set. So 2 are going to be from my 8-inch mix and match, and 1 is going to be from a companion. But the first one is the 1/4 square triangle. So I want to just take a look at this die real quick because it's designed. It's such a fabulous die because they're just all put together here, and it's designed so that you have your lengthwise grain on the outside of your block, just like you want it to be. And you don't have to do, again, complicated math. You don't have to do drawing lines and trimming. And again, we've got those dog ears off. So I've got a layer of red and white polka dot, because I love polka dots, and a layer of red. And I'm going to put this through. This is going to cut more than what I need for one, but it's going to cut what I need for the whole block, all 4 units. So just with one layer of each. How quick was that? When did you last cut quarter square triangles? That quickly, right? And then we're going to have those put together so that they would sew together just right down the seam, that built-in seam allowance, and then they're going to press open and be perfect, just like that. So, and here's my other sets. And this is a good tip, because if you want to sew things together, why not put them together when you cut them? I put my right sides together. I mean, one's a solid, but the right side up so that I could just go straight to my sewing machine and have them ready to piece. Or with this, I've just got them right there ready to put in the hoop. Now, the next thing that I need is a half square triangle. And again, we've got this is going to be a 2-inch finished half square triangle. I've got this on here, and I've fan folded. You can see I'll show you fan folding. So these are not directional. I folded it. It's ready to go right in my cutter, just like that. So I've got 4, cut that quickly, and they're all perfect. And I can cut up to 6 layers of 100% cotton, Ashley, at a time. So that's something to keep in mind too. And they're all going to be, each layer is going to be perfectly accurate. Okay, now we've got the trapezoid. Okay, so this is a really fun shape. It's a shape you see a lot in designs, just like this one. And we're going to be using our mix and match shapes along with it, but it is from the companion corners. So I'm going to put this on, and I'm going to show you a little trick, because we want to maximize our fabric, because we love our fabric, right? So we're going to go ahead and cut. I've got 2 layers, but I didn't fan fold. I'm going to go ahead, and I've got 2 layers. This is, again, going to go right there. And then rather than fold it, I'm just going to slide this down. Look at that. I'm going to have virtually no waste. And I'm going to get my next ones out here. So look at this. I had just a sliver of extra fabric there. And I've got 4 more trapezoids. And then the half square triangle, again, that was from my mix and match, is going to go right on the back end of this. Isn't that the cutest block? And it's going to be so slick to piece that together. And then I could just keep going, cutting my trapezoids, and slide this right down here. And I could get 2 more trapezoids just out of this small piece of fabric. Isn't that cool?
That is
Oh,
super.
Ashley, I lost you for a minute. Are you there?
Uh-oh. Yep. Can you hear me?
Oh, now I can hear you.
Gotta love the technology, right? So I love that. And I love how easy, again, it is. And I think you mentioned this earlier, but just kind of to clarify, but when you're placing your fabric over that die and then you're covering it with something else, that's what you call the cutting mat, correct?
This is a cutting mat, right? And you're going to need this, because if I put this here and go like this, nothing is going to happen.
Yep. Love that.
So you have to have the mat, and you have to be sure that you cover all of your blades with the mat.
Perfect.
Because if you don't, it's not going to cut. So I could cover the whole die, but if I put my mat like this, the back part of my shape wouldn't cut,
Not
because
gonna
there's
cut.
no mat over it.
That's a really good tip. So that mat is pressing against, because like you said, there's embedded blades that cut your fabric, right?
Right. So you can rub over them. You're not going to feel them. If you push down, you'll feel them. Don't push too hard because you don't want to cut yourself.
Right.
And then you'll see cut marks in your mat every time. But you can use both sides of your mat. You can move it a little bit from side to side.
Good point.
As long as your shape is all the way covered, I could put my mat like this and spread out those cut marks.
Yeah, fantastic point. So I love that. Well, and since I have you here already, why don't we talk about the specials that we've got for the event today, Erica? Is that okay with you?
Oh, you bet. And you've got some great specials too.
We do. And so I've got my slide up here. So we'll share that here coming up. And then the first one that I have, tell them about the Ready, Set, Go Ultimate Fabric Cutting System.
You know, we like to say with the Ready, Set, Go, just add fabric because really
Perfect.
you've got everything you need to get started cutting your quilts and your projects with Accuquilt. You've got our Go fabric cutter. This is the original, the one I'm using today. You've got the Go Mix and Match cube. So again, we're using that. I just cut with dies from that. We've got our 2.5-inch strip cutter. This is year in and year out our #1 seller because 2.5-inch strips are so good for everything, right? They're
Absolutely.
great for
I put those around my pineapple table topper. So they're absolutely perfect. And
they're
your
perfect
binding, right?
binding, sashing, borders, so many things, or just cutting your stash into those standard jelly roll sizes, those 2.5-inch strips. There's so many fun, quick patterns for that. You can cut your own with a die. And then, of course, we've got a quick start guide to get you going. There is a little DVD inside that cube. You've got a mat inside that cube along with all 8 of those dies. And then there's some pattern booklets, including the one and only Eleanor Burns wrote a book for us called Go Cube, which is like a roadmap to getting started piecing blocks with your cube. And it's all right there in the box. And that's a super great price.
I love that. That is perfect. So, and that mix and match cube set, the whole idea of it being able to basically cut out those pieces, the sizes you need, and the mix and match part means that you could make a ton of different blocks by mix and matching those shapes, right?
Right. You know,
Yeah,
on
love
our
it.
website, we have a free downloadable sheet that will show you the 72 basic blocks that you
Wow.
can make with those first 8 shapes and 72 more with each companion set that you add. That's 216 blocks. And that really is just the beginning of
It
what
is.
you can do with those cubes.
It is just the beginning. I love that, Erica. So yeah, if you don't have anything Accuquilt, this is a great place to get
It is.
started because I love, like you said, just add fabric to this system and you're ready to go. So
Yep.
I think
You
that
can
that's
make
really,
hundreds of
really
projects
impressive.
just with what comes in the box.
Right, absolutely. But of course, like you said, Erica, there's always room for growth. And that is the whole idea behind the corners and the angle companion set. So tell everybody what those sets are all
Yes.
about.
Yes. So these sets are giving you 4 more shapes. And I misspoke because I think I told you that our friend the trapezoid came out of the companion set corners and he's actually in angles. But these are going to give you 4 more shapes that are going to work alongside your mix and match cubes. So if you've got an 8-inch cube and you want to get a companion, you want to get 8 inches here again because they're going to pull from the same shapes like we just saw with the block. So the first one, the corners, that gives you the chisel. We already saw that one. It gives you a signature block. And then the dies, the 2 dies that work together to create bow tie blocks or little snowballed squares.
Love that.
Then we added companion angles because, 72 more can't be bad, right? And
That's right.
We've got great shapes here as well. The trapezoid that we looked at, we've got a kite shape, a triangle in a square center, and then half rectangle triangles. Those work together, but they also work on either side of the triangle and the kite shape to make, again, a whole nother block.
Awesome.
And
Yeah, that's
you have got
impressive.
great prices for these as well. I can see you've got a great event
We
price
do.
for these as well.
We absolutely do. So that's very special. And we've already seen just in the couple of blocks that you and I have presented that the angles in the corners also can be incorporated in the blocks that they're pieced in the hoop. That block that I just did, the whirl block, uses one. And like you said, also the little tulip block. So these sets all work together, like you said, can be used for those piece in the hoop blocks. But it's a really impressive cutting system for sure.
Yeah.
And then now we do have, so I know that you guys have more sizes, but we've chosen to incorporate the 8-inch cube and mix and match angles and corners, and the 4-inch, because these are two that just work really well with a variety of different hoop sizes. But it doesn't mean this is the only two that would work with our piecing in the hoop. But tell them, Erica, about this cube mix and match. And this particular set is for the 4-inch blocks.
Well, the 4-inch, they say you're not supposed to have a favorite, but I suppose the 4-inch really is my favorite. It is so fantastic for cutting up your scraps because it'll use even those small pieces. And again, you've got those 8 basic shapes. So squares, half square triangles, quarter square triangles, what we call a square on point. We've got a parallelogram. We're going to see those in play a little later, and then rectangles. So they all are built to work together, and you know that you've got all kinds of options with those. And hey, if you're getting a ready, set, go, and you're getting that 8-inch cube, this is a great price. Go ahead, take advantage of it, and add the 4-inch because they're going to play really well together too.
I agree with you. And every cube set, not only do you guys have the mix and match, which gives you all of those basic shapes, but also you have the companion corners and angles for those 4-inch as well. So
we absolutely do. And then each one of the cubes is going to come with a mat. Now we're going to have a 6x6. For these, both the 4 and the 8 are going to come with the 6x6 because all the dies in these sets are going to be that size. When you get to the bigger sizes like the 10 and 12, those are going to have some bigger mats in them, but those are going to also need a really big hoop.
Right, absolutely. And the hoops keep getting bigger and bigger.
They
So,
do,
and speaking of big, yes, and we all like bigger, right, Erica? So tell us about the Go Big electric fabric cutter starter set.
We say it a lot, but go big or go home, right?
That's right.
So
I love it.
This is the Go Big electric. It is our largest cutter. It will work with 100% of our Go dies. It will come also with a die and a mat. We always want you to do something. It's no fun to get your new toy without batteries, right? So we make sure you've always got a die and a mat with any cutter that you're getting. You've got at least one die and a mat that you're getting with that in the box, so you can do something with it, so you can get it out and play with it right away. The die that comes with the Go Big electric is going to make a 3x6 flying geese unit. That is such a prevalent design in quilting, and of course, I'm sure you could piece a flying geese in the hoop.
A flying geese one is a great one to piece in the hoop, Erica, because I can actually piece a strip of geese as long as my hoop will allow. And so this die that is coming with the Go Big electric, you certainly could use the that exact size for piecing in the hoop. So really great point.
Right. But you know what else, Ashley? There's a flying geese unit in every mix and match cube.
Nice.
Shape 4, which is the quarter square triangle for the body, and shape 5, which is the small half square triangle. That's going to be your wings. It's in every single mix and match cube for you.
Love it. Great to know. I love that block. And it is a really good one for piecing in the hoop because we can make it really long. Makes beautiful borders too. So, okay. So Erica, I've got another project that I'm going to share, but it might be another good time to do a Q&A. So while we've got you on the screen, let's invite Tammy and see if she's got some questions that we want to talk about live. So Tammy, how's it going over there?
Well, it is busy over here in the chat. And Erica, this is a great time to come in because they're debating and we're talking over here. One of the questions that I had was, can you send fabric with fusible backing through the cutter?
Absolutely, you can. So we have such adorable applique dies. And Some of them are really quite complex, and it would take you so long to cut them. But you know what the hardest applique shape of all is to cut? A circle. And we have tons of circle dies for you to choose from. Every single one's going to be perfect every time. And you can fuse your fabric. We recommend a lightweight or a featherweight fusible on the back of your cotton. Go ahead and fuse it ahead of time. Lay it on. We count that as half a layer. And so you can do up to 4 layers of already fused fabric at a time through your cutter.
Love that. That's great.
Is super
Yeah,
slick.
and that was my next question. So you hit it right on.
Well, there you go.
Yes. And we did have another question is Elizabeth says, can you recommend a strip cutter for the dye for sashing?
Oh my gosh. Well, one of my favorite after the 2.5, which is everybody's favorite, my next favorite strip dye, especially for sashing, is going to be the 1.5. Our strip dies start as small as cutting at a 1 inch, and we go all the way up to 6.5. So there's 18 different dies to choose from. And you know what? Every time I go to do something, it seems like, oh, I need to add that one. So I use the 2 inch a lot. The 2 inch is a great one. I use the 1.5 with the 1 3/4 to make flange binding. So those two are great to have. A lot of people like to bind at 2 1/4. We've got one for that too.
Yeah. Love it.
Great. Okay, Ashley, I don't want to leave you out here. So I do have a question for you. You know, they're asking about the software, and we're working with Accuquilt and stuff.
Yeah.
They want to know, are there instructions in our software? Because our fans know that we have all those manuals out there.
Right.
So they want to know, are there any instructions talking about the Accuquilt that are available through the software?
There's nothing specific. It's just a category of blocks. They work exactly the same way that all the other blocks work. So when you're looking at the instructions for any block in our My Block Piecer, the instructions are the same. The only thing that you have to know is what size die you are using from your Accuquilt cutting system. So normally, before Accuquilt, I would choose my block, I would set my size, and then I would cut my pieces. But I actually do the reverse now. I get my Accuquilt cutting system, and that's going to determine my block size. So if I'm using my 8-inch cube, I'm using an 8-inch block. So then whenever I choose my block, I make sure to set that matching size. That is literally only thing you need to remember any different is to set your block size based on the die that you're using. Accuquilt refers to their pieces as finished sizes, and we do the same with our block. So when you enter that finished size that you're needing from your die, you're entering the correct size into the software. It's the only difference.
All right. Well, great, ladies. Thank you for those answers. Yeah. And I know you do have a lot more to show us, so we're going to let you get back to it. And I see questions coming in, so I'm going to head back to the chat.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, Tammy. And thank you so much, Erica, for helping answer those. I'll get back to this next project, and then I'll see you in just a bit, Erica, again, and Tammy as well one more time. Okay, so this little strip border here, this one is a great little project I love how I can use up my scraps with my Accuquilt and my block piecer. So I'm going to head over and show you about editing a block. So I'm back over in my block piecer here, and I'm going to go back, and then let's choose this block here. And this chevron block, I used only 1/2 of it. And not even completely the entire half to make my row of my parallelograms to make the border on my towel. So now this demonstration is to specifically show you how you can edit and create your own block. So I'm going to start with a block that's built in, but I'm going to edit it. So I can take the pieces away and I can delete them, and I can combine pieces as well. So I could either copy and paste this parallelogram, or I could use this one and mirror image it. So if I mirror image, I can put that right next to it. I would recommend turning on your snap to grid anchor points and guidelines, so it'll make your block just pop right into place. And I'll leave this one here and we can put it on the end. Now I did a red and white border. So I started with red, and the color does not matter for the stitch out, but it's a good visual. So you can change the colors here, but you can copy and paste as many of these as you want to make this border. And the same is true for flying geese that we were just talking about. Now, when you bring this in and set your size, of course, as it continues to grow, it's going to get longer and longer and longer. So make sure that you have that your right size, and then you're going to build this block the same exact way. So let's go back and do that one more time. So I'm going to open up, and then here's my block. And now remember, you want to set the size. So I'm going to set the size before I actually start deleting things, so it's the right size. So remember, if I'm using my 8-inch cube, which I did for this example, this one block would have been a 4-inch finished block for that one patch of the 4 patch. And so now I've got that right size. So now we can delete. We can copy and paste as many times as we need. So I just use my copy, paste, and then I move that over and it snaps right into position. And then I can copy and paste as many as I need. Okay. And so again, you can do that too with flying geese. Now, like I said, color doesn't matter, but you certainly can change them if it helps you visually. Now, what I did was I made this in 2 halves, and you'll see that in my example. But let me just add this to my workflow. So I'm going to rotate this around. So we've got it all set. We've got the block. We've got the size. So when I choose the workflow here, and click my auto build, you can see that even though we manipulated those pieces, it still builds the file for me. And so I save this, I take it to my embroidery machine, and then I can piece this together. This particular border only used the 2 different shapes from my die set. So that parallelogram was repeated numerous times, and then my triangle there. So that is how you can edit blocks to make your own. Now, let me go over here and show you that stitch out process. So here's my block and my border that I stitched. So I cut my pieces. Erica's going to give you some tips on that because I learned a valuable lesson about that parallelogram when I was doing this. And so she'll share that with you. But here, what I did was I created my 2 halves in my hoop and stitched those all in one hooping. But to seam those together, I used, again, just like we did before, I just created a run stitch line to seam that together. And you can see over there to the right, once it's all done and I trimmed away the excess, I was able to have my border. Now, I added a little rectangle on either end because I needed it to be a certain length for my towel. And those rectangles were the perfect size to make it fit exactly along my towel border. Now, I just stitched this onto my towel with my sewing machine. But I want to give you a tip here. So I'm going to talk to you about what stabilizer we recommend you stitching on for piecing in the hoop. But in this case here, what I used was our fusible no-show stabilizer. So one side of this stabilizer has a fusible component, and I actually hooped it with the fusible side down. So when I took this out of the hoop, the back of my border is fusible. So I fused that to my towel to temporarily hold it in place so that I could then stitch it with my sewing machine. So the stabilizer that you choose, I'm going to talk to you about the different ones, but sometimes that fusible side can be helpful in other ways. So, and there's that cute little towel. I thought it turned out adorable, and it was a really nice compliment to my trivet there. So, for cutting that system, Erica's going to share with you about cutting out these pieces. And I know for a fact that the parallelogram that you use for this particular border is directional. And I know Erica can tell you all about that, cutting this strip. So Erica, tell us about cutting this border that I created here with these shapes, and tell us all about those directional shapes, because I learned a valuable lesson that I didn't have you making sure that I didn't cut that incorrectly. So take it away, Erica.
Well, you know, we've all made that mistake. And we always say, make a test block. Grab some fabric you don't love maybe and test it out, especially if you're just getting started with the system, if you're just getting started with the software. Don't grab your favorite fabric first. Grab something you don't love. You probably have some around. I know I do. So here's our parallelogram die. And you can see it's got this parallelogram. And like Ashley mentioned, it's directional. So to show you what I mean, I cut one piece right side up and one piece right side down. And you can see if I went to line these up on my towel, I would be creating little chevrons. I would not be creating. And look, you think, oh, just do that. No, that's not how they're designed to fit together. Parallelograms aren't all sides equal. There's a longer side and a shorter side. So I took a look at what Ashley was doing and I thought, oh, she's cutting those with the right side up. So I grabbed some fabric and let's cut some with all right sides up because this isn't going to work on our towel, is it? So we're going to do that. The other thing that I love is how that triangle, that small half square triangle, shape number 5 from our mix and match, is going to work so well to finish this off. Now you can see I've got my shapes going the same direction. We're all in this together, right? And again, just like I did earlier, I'm just going to scoot this along my die so that I have no waste at all. And I'm going to cut a couple more so that you know it wasn't a fluke.
Ooh, that is good, Erica. You are good.
There we go. So we've got all of our little parallelograms lined up. And then again, our half square triangle is going to fit just perfectly on the end. I want to show you one, so I'm going to cut 2 really quick. And we cut some rectangles earlier. So we'll remember how to cut rectangles. That was super easy. And here is my little red. And let me just grab one and put it up here so it's a little easier to see. Look how well that's going to line up. Now, don't anybody panic. There's a little bit of a dog ear on a parallelogram. But look how well this is going to line up. Absolutely perfectly, right?
That is perfect.
And
yeah,
then
absolutely.
Your program is going to stitch right along there. When you fold this out, it is just going to fit perfectly.
Love that.
And you are going to have that towel done in no time. And that is just the cutest design. I can't wait to make one. What a great tip about the fusible too, Ashley. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got another tip too coming up with a fabric stabilizer. So I'll show that as well.
Oh,
so it works great with our system and it just went, it washes out. So to stiffen those pieces just makes it that much easier. And I'm sure after we heard about the fusible backing that you said we could also cut. So then I know that they'll cut just fine with that. So
yes,
perfect.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for that demo, Erica. I'm going to share one more thing with them, and then I've got my pineapple project coming up because I cannot wait for you to tell them who Bob is and why we love him so much.
He's my guy.
That's right. That's coming up in a bit. So I'll head back over and share a couple more things, and then I'll see Erica back in just a bit. Now, if you're already in love with what you're seeing, you can get free education on our block piecer software. I know that a lot of times software is scary, but don't let it be. We've got lots of free education for you. So if you head over to our inspiredbydime.com, click on the support option and the community forum, you'll see all those little images below. That's all free education. Those first 4 are free to you. Join our Facebook user group, join our YouTube, follow us on YouTube so that you can get notifications when we add new videos on our software. Also, Eileen has a blog, and also we have an inspiration forum. from. Now, I know the education from Accuquilt is just as robust because myself, I've used it tons of times. So you can take advantage of their free education as well. Both companies really do well at education. We also have some paid options. We have PDF workbooks and 30-minute private tutoring sessions that you could book to learn to use your software. But now, lucky for you guys today, our MyBlockPiecer software bundle includes those paid options. You're going to get the software, you're going to get 3 PDF tutorials, and 1 private tutoring session with an education team member. So that event special is $439. But don't forget, if you enter your 10% off code FLAG10, that's going to reduce the price for that bundle to $395.99. So such a great deal. Don't forget to use those codes, and don't forget to stack those codes. If you're over the 250 mark, make sure you enter both the free ship and the 10% off codes. So that bundle also, for all of you guys that are watching from all over the world, is a download bundle. So there is no shipping for our software purchase. So when you add that to your cart, make sure you check your email after you check out for that particular purchase. Now, stabilizer options. This is a question we get often. What stabilizer do I use for piecing in the hoop? So our favorite choices are Piece and Stitch stabilizer or our No-Show Light. So Piece and Stitch is a tearaway, wash away stabilizer. Now, it does not completely dissolve, but it does get extremely soft when washed, so much so that you will not notice it in your block. But because it is a tearaway, you could rip away the excess if you don't want it left in your block. We also like to piece on the No-Show Light. No-Show stabilizer, as you're probably familiar with, is a soft and sheer cutaway stabilizer, but we have a light version, which is even lighter weight and even softer. So those are both available below the presentation. So check those out if you don't have either of those options for piecing. Now, the No-Show Light is going to remain in your block forever. It is a cutaway stabilizer. So think about when you're doing something like foundation piecing on like a muslin, that remains in your block forever, as does the No-Show Light. Now, this is not a requirement, but you saw on my border that I used the fusible no-show because I wanted to take advantage of the fusible side to help it hold to my towel temporarily while I stitched it down. So you can piece on the fusible no-show as well, and use that fusible side to your advantage. I also use it on my quilt labels to temporarily hold those in place while I stitch those to my block as well. So the next thing I want to share with you is creating this pineapple block. This one was so much fun, and it is extremely impressive that you can do something like this in the hoop. So let me head over to my software again, and let's see exactly how we can create that pineapple block. So I'm going to start a new page, and let's go to our block library. I'm going to stay in the Accuquilt, and we do have 3 blocks in this category called Bob, because that relates to Accuquilt's block on board dies. So these work with those dies, so they are already set to that correct size. So I'm going to choose the pineapple, but Erica's going to talk to you about the Chinese and the palm as well. So let's choose the pineapple block here. Now, the pineapple block is specifically already set to 10 inches because Accuquilt's die that cuts out all of the pieces for this pineapple block is for a 10-inch block. So you don't have to adjust the size, but if you forget, when you look, you'll already see it's the right size. So now this block here, I don't have to set the size. I'm going to choose my workflow. This block, guys, has 37 quilt block pieces that all will cut out with one die. Erica's going to show you, and I can piece it all in one hoop just like that. Is that impressive or what? So it is just as simple as selecting the block and then adding that to the workflow, and then you're going to save that block. Now, I took this one step further, so let me open up this block here. I took this one step further, and I actually copied and pasted the blocks. You can kind of see in the background there for my blocks, and I copied and pasted and just rotated them to see what orientation I wanted my blocks, what pattern I wanted to make when I pieced 4 of them together. So I stitched 4 of those in the hoop, and I also added the quilting as well. So when you create these blocks and you want to merge the quilting, let's go back to our pineapple block here and go back to our workflow. And this time I'm going to actually save it. So when you click preview and you click save, I'm going to just leave it on my desktop is fine. And I'm going to call that my pineapple. I'm going to choose my embroidery machine format and click save. Now it's going to save that file for my machine format. And when I open this, it opens up in my software. So that is the embroidery design that I'm going to take to my machine to stitch that out. Now, if you want to add a quilting design, you can just bring that quilting design in on the screen, and I'm going to resize it over here. Now, this is a 10-inch finished block, and I'm going to give myself a little wiggle room, and I'm going to make my quilting design a 975, and then I'm going to put that right into position. I can always do a right mouse click and say center origin to make sure that it's centered in the block. And now when I watch my slow redraw, remember the first thing that you get is the placement guide for all the pieces, and then it's going to piece all those together. Look at that. Isn't that just cool to watch? And then the last thing that's going to stitch is my quilting design. So if you want to quilt that block once it's done, you certainly can. Now, what I did was I actually created my quilting plan, and I quilted this after I put it all together to create that beautiful quilting. And I'll show you that here coming up in just a moment. So to piece that block in the hoop, Erica's going to talk more about who Bob is and why we love Bob. But you can cut out those pieces and then create that file to do that piecing in the hoop. So take a look. This is just some snapshots of me building my block in the hoop until it was completely done. And you can see that the entire block gets pieced in the hoop. Now, this is a 10-inch finished block, so you do need a hoop that is going to accommodate that. My embroidery machine that I use has a 10.5 by 10.5 inch hoop size, and that's what I use to piece that block in the hoop. So isn't that impressive? I just love it. And now this is a perfect example of those dog ear corners that Erica keeps telling you about. They also are really important when piecing in the hoop. You can see how my last few pieces here, how they fit perfectly within the shape that is stitched to let me know where to place these pieces down. So the dog ears are also very important in the piecing in the hoop. And when we're all done, we don't have to trim all of those away. So I just absolutely love that. So I think this is a great time for Erica to tell you who Bob is. And Erica, why do we love Bob so much?
Oh, we do love Bob. So here is my die. So this is our block on board Bob die. And block on board means, and Ashley said this earlier, all the pieces to create your block are on one die board. And in this case, it's a 6 by 24 inch die board. Why is that important? It means I can cut this on any of my Go cutters, including my little Go Me. So let's take a look. Now, we always have block assembly directions, but we also have great cutting directions. And so you want to check out those directions, follow those directions, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to cut this block. And as Ashley mentioned, we've got, I think she said 37 pieces, and we're going to cut them all at once. So here, they're all labeled. We screen printed the letters, so it'll be easy to follow those directions. And we've got them kind of grouped together by color, which is so neat. And it makes it very slick and easy, again, to be cutting out. So I've got 1 layer, 2 layers, 4 layers on this one, and 4 layers down here. Now, we're doing 2 layers of red and 2 layers of green. I want to make sure all my blades are covered up. And I'm going to put a mat on it because you've already learned nothing happens without the mat, right? We're going to put this on. I'm going to need the same size mat as I have die. So that means a 6 by 24 inch mat as well. And I am just going to put this through my cutter. And it's that simple. Now, one thing I want to tell you, if you are somebody who's had a go for a long time and you're looking at my handle here and wondering about it, we have a new ergonomic handle, which is a chunkier handle. If you haven't gotten one yet, you may want to get that for your new cut, for your cutter. But the new ones, if you're just getting one today, it's going to come with that for you. So we always like to give our mats a little love because that's going to dispel some of that static. I'm going to pull the mat away and I've got all those fabulous pieces. So this might be a good time to leave those pieces on your die board to help you with placing them and keeping them straight. But look how slick this is. I have got all of those 37 pieces. They're all cut, they're all perfect, and they were done in no time. And we're ready to go. So Ashley's got this in some great colors for Christmas. We've got a really fun pattern that has it all in red and white. This is a really fun design. Look. It also works really well as scrappy. So here's a look at it being scrappy. And then she mentioned a couple of our others. We do have 2 other blocks that block on board dies we're talking about today. Ashley, do you want me to show those blocks or are we going to keep those for just a minute?
Yeah, no, go right ahead, Erica.
Okay. So the first one that she showed you in the program was the Chinese lantern. And here is what that block looks like. It's an 8-inch finished block. So again, a lot of your hoops are going to work really well with this, and you can get so many different looks with your fabric. And the other one is the Go Palm die, and this is fabulous. You know, what is so wonderful about these products, about the Go dies and then piecing these in the hoop, is that this is something that would traditionally be foundation paper pieced. And this is going to be so much easier, and those points are going to be perfect for you.
That's beautiful. I love those. And we specifically chose those 3 bob dies, Erica, because they work well with our system.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that's the only ones that will work with Accuquilt. There are others
That's right.
as well that do work. So if you have other dies, you most likely can use them. Just because the block is not under that category does not mean that it's not in our system. We've basically just, combined that category to make it easy for you to find. But I know, for instance, there's other ones that I looked at that I know that we have those listed as well. And then maybe as time goes on, we'll update and add, as you guys do, because I know you're always adding new dies as well, right, Erica?
We are.
Yeah, I love that. So the 3 dies that we have, if we could go back to my slide, but hang tight there, Erica, and so that if we can talk about those too. But the 3 ones that we have here today are the pineapple, the Chinese lantern that you just showed, and the palm. And bob dies are always set to a specific size, right, Erica? The size, the finished size is the size that you're going to get when you have one complete block.
That's right.
Awesome. And so those 3 we have, because we know they work well, we've got them added to our software, and they are set to those exact size. When you choose it, it comes up the right size because that's what size pieces you're going to get. So, so perfect. Well, I have a couple of more things to show, Erica, and so then we'll come back in just literally like about 4 minutes for one last Q&A before we head out. So
and I'll show you a couple samples then too.
Oh, perfect. Great. So we love eye candy. So for my quilting, I used the quilting collection that we have below called Tapestry and added that. But I wanted to show you guys, now this is just a little bit of a bonus information here. You can quilt with your embroidery machine as well. So now I did piecing in the hoop, and then I stitched my blocks together with my sewing machine. So once I had my 4 blocks, I then added those together to create the center of my table topper, and then I added my borders, and then I hooped all 3 layers, and I hooped it and quilted it on my embroidery machine. So that hoop that you see there in the video is actually Dime's Snap Hoop Monster. It's a magnetic hoop that it holds your quilt sandwich perfectly to do your quilting. Now, when you have all 3 layers in your standard hoop, it's a little hard to squeeze it and get it all tightened. So our magnetic hoop is really what we prefer for doing quilting in the hoop. So if you don't have one of Dime's snap hoop monsters, I definitely recommend it, and grab it while it's on special. So these hoops are magnetic, and they're great not just for quilting, but also other project as well. You can use them for your regular embroidery projects also. They are machine and brand specific. So you do want to make sure that you click the view product button under the brand of your embroidery machine, and then choose the size from the drop down list here. So, and let me head over just quickly and show you that under the camera before we go to our last Q&A. So here's one of our snap hoop monsters. This is just a small one, but now for quilting, I like to use a much bigger one. You could see that I had this entire block, this 10-inch block in the hoop, so I used a much larger hoop. But just to give you an idea, it's a metal base. It does attach to your embroidery machine the same way that your standard hoops do, so your machine does recognize it. The center part here is the shield, and then we've got the magnet on the top. So when you're hooping something like this quilt sandwich, and let me pull it to the edge here so you can definitely see. I'm just going to cover up the edge of my hoop, and then I just put that magnet down, and I can feel underneath and make sure that I'm all lined up. So if I just lift by the actual quilt, you can see that it's holding because the magnet is magnetizing to the base. And you can see my quilting goes through all 3 layers. This is exactly how I quilted on my embroidery machine. So if you don't have a snap hoop monster, I definitely recommend it if you also want to quilt your blocks on your embroidery machine. So make sure you take advantage of those special prices. Make sure you choose the right model for your machine. There is a compatibility chart at the bottom of the screen. So, and then the other thing that I had here that I'll just mention quickly is this little label. We added the text the same way that you saw me add the quilting. I added the text to this block so that it would stitch my pieced block and then add my quilt label text all in one hooping. You do that the same way that you saw me add that quilting. Once you create the file, you can then put your text right on top of it and save all as one file. So I will stop right there, and then let's bring Tammy and Erica back in for one last Q&A if we have anything we need to address. So Tammy, is there anything that we need to talk about before we go?
Well, actually, I didn't even realize the time, and I just been answering these questions over here, so I think I got most of the questions answered for you. I'm sorry. Usually, I
Well,
like to
that's
give you a
okay.
couple,
That's okay.
but unfortunately, I've been typing away over here, and that time has gone past me so quickly. But I want to thank everybody for hanging out. They were great over here, Ashley.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we really appreciate you being over there, Tammy, so that Erica and I could share all of this information with all of the viewers. A big thank you to Accuquilt for hosting the event. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for them and their amazing cutting system. But I do want to remind everybody that this presentation is viewable for the next 48 hours. Use your original link to get back to this page, and you can press play. You can rewind, rewatch as many times as you want. Don't forget to use your codes for extra discounts. They are below the video window. Enter one or both of them. If you're over 250, use both of them. Stack them to get all of those additional savings. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this presentation of using your Accuquilt cutting system with our Dime products and My Block Piecer software. I think it, as Erica said, it's the perfect marriage of products. So until we have another event with Accuquilt and Dime, we're going to say bye for now, and thank you all for coming.